It was an autumn night when a thick fog blanketed the aging streets on the edge of the city. I, an independent investigator working for a freelance channel, was sitting alone in my small room, editing clips from a past interview for the next broadcast. The clock struck to 2:17 a.m. That's when the landline rang, a long, dry ring, echoing through the silence of the night. On the screen was a strange number, no format, no area code. I hesitated for a few seconds, then picked up the receiver. A voice spoke on the other end, faint, trembling. Help. Me. I'm trapped in the house, number 7 Oakridge Street, that abandoned house. And then complete silence. No crying, no dial tone, only the sound of the wind seeping through the cracks in my window as if echoing from a faraway place. I froze. Oakridge, house number 7. That place had been abandoned for over 3 decades. No electricity, no residents, no phone signal. According to records, a family once lived there, and then vanished without a trace in 1994. I remember that house vividly. As a child, I used to pass by it on my way to school. Kids in the neighborhood called it the Silent House, because no one had ever heard a single sound come from it, even with windows wide open and the wind howling. Every time we played near it, we'd fall silent and walk a little faster. There was something about that house that sent chills down your spine, a kind of silence that didn't feel natural, as if the very space itself was trapped in a moment that could never move forward. And now, after all these years, I received a call for help from that place, a call that shouldn't exist, a voice rising from something that should no longer be alive. The next morning I drove to Oakridge. The air was cold, almost as if winter had arrived early, and the fog still clung stubbornly to the ground. House number 7 appeared before me, exactly as I remembered it. The roof rotting, the wooden door half shut, and flakes of paint peeling away like dead skin. A rusted "Do Not Enter" sign hung loosely on a crooked nail, its letters nearly erased by time and weather. I stepped inside. The interior was pitch dark, save for faint light filtering through the cracks in the ceiling. The air was thick with dust. Spider webs hung in clumps across the corners. Every footstep echoed with a sharp crack, not just from the wooden floorboards, but as if I was disturbing something far older. Something forgotten. In the corner of the living room, buried beneath a pile of rotted books, I found it. An old, leather-bound notebook. The pages were yellowed, the cover cracked. What made me freeze was the first page, a scribbled note, ink smudged by water. I called, but no one came. If someone finds this, play the tape. Beneath the notebook was a small cassette recorder, an old model, long discontinued. I brought everything back to my office and began playing the tape. The audio was distorted, filled with static and background noise, but I could still make out the voice. Someone's at the door. They won't open. I'm trapped. I can hear breathing. Someone's looking through the keyhole, but they have no eyes. I sat motionless. That voice, it was almost identical to the call I had received the night before. I immediately dove into the archives, searching through old newspaper records. Eventually, I found an article from the Herald Times, dated October 5th, 1994. Carmichael family missing from their home. House number 7, Oakridge Street. No signs of forced entry, no leads. A 16-year-old daughter made a distress call the night before. But when police arrived, the house was completely empty. A call was made 30 years ago. A cry for help. Unanswered. And now, that call had returned. I didn't know what I was following anymore. An unsolved case, a time loop, or a spirit unable to move on. I couldn't stop. Every instinct told me to walk away. But there was something in that voice. Something left unsaid. A plea that had never been answered. In the files from 1994, I found a detail that most news outlets at the time had overlooked. The Carmichael family had 3 members, but only 2 bodies were ever found when the house was searched that November. The mother and father, their bodies discovered in the basement with no clear cause of death. The daughter, Evelyn, was never found. She was just 16. Then I came across an old medical report leaked from internal archives. In March 1995, an unidentified teenage girl had been admitted to a psychiatric hospital on the outskirts of Glenfield, over 60 kilometers from the scene. She didn't remember her name. She didn't answer any questions. She only repeated one sentence, over and over. I called, but no one came. The file gave few details, but the attached photo stopped me cold. It was Evelyn, slightly older, with eyes that looked lost, as if still trapped in that night. I went to Glenfield. The hospital was old and nearly abandoned. Budget cuts had shuttered most of its wings. An elderly nurse, keeper of the old archives, at first didn't recall anything. But when I mentioned Evelyn's name, she went quiet, then whispered, "That girl." She never really left that night. She always mumbled about a door that wouldn't open, about someone watching through the keyhole. Every night, right at 2:17 a.m., she'd sit up, as if waiting for the phone to ring. I tried to find Evelyn, but the records showed she'd been transferred in 2001. No forwarding address, no legal guardian, no hospital transfer logs. But the nurse had kept something. A single recording saved from one night in 1998. A night when Evelyn was dreaming. On the tape, I heard that same faint, familiar voice. The very same one from the phone call I had received. "Help me. I'm in the house. Oakridge Street. Number 7. The call I received wasn't random. It had happened before. Again and again. Through dreams, through disconnected devices, through memories that had never ended. I returned to house number 7, not as an investigator this time, but as someone who might be the last to truly hear that voice. This time, I brought modern recording equipment, an EMF detector, and a candle. The only source of light I wanted. There was still no power. The wind slipped through the cracks in the rotting wooden walls, making a sound like a long, drawn-out sigh across the room. When I entered the living room, the place where I first found the notebook, I noticed something was different. There, lying in the center of the floor, was a grey, ash-colored envelope, one I hadn't seen before. Inside was a copy of an emergency dispatch transcript from 1994, one that had never been made public. Scrawled in the margins were the following notes: 2:17 a.m., incoming call from unlisted number. Caller: female weak, requesting help. Call ended abruptly. Trace failed. Origin does not exist. I took the copy home and dug through every source I could find. No one at the dispatch center remembered the call, but everything confirmed that it had indeed been recorded, then buried, forgotten, just like Evelyn, just like this house, just like everything caught between the line of what once existed and what never happened. I sat quietly in the middle of that room. The candle flickered gently. The recorder was still running, playing back everything I'd captured throughout this journey, and then, like a final message, I heard it. Not from the machine, not from the tape, but from just behind me, this time. You heard me, didn't you? I turned around, no one was there. Only the wavering candlelight, and a cold gust of air brushing across my shoulder. When I left the house, I took nothing with me. Nothing except the transcript copy and the old notebook. I placed the recorder back exactly where I found it. Part of me believes if someone is ever trapped in time, in fear, in a moment where help never came, perhaps what they need isn't to be saved, but simply to be heard. And if you ever hear a phone ring at 2:17 a.m., pick it up, because maybe you'll be the next one to hear the call for help. From the house that's been abandoned for 30 years.